Good morning, beloved, and welcome to Changing the World with God and with Good. Well, for about 5 or 10 minutes or so, I get to share with you each and every day God and His universal kingdom characteristics and principles for humanity without religious bias, ethnic bias, national bias, gender bias, or political bias. And for just a moment on this Thursday morning, I want to talk with you from the subject, I have a dream. I have a dream. And, this dream of mine, I'm guessing it aligns with God's will for humanity, and certainly it aligns with my purpose. But I have a dream, beloved, that one day, we will all realize and know God. We will know that there's only one creator that created all of humanity. We'll begin acting as we recognize that there's only one creator of all humanity, whether you are black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jew, Palestinian. We all originated from the same creator that created the patriarch and the matriarch of humanity. Yet when we think about God, it's often as if we are, in a sporting activity where one team is competing against the other to prove that they know or they have a direct access or, exclusivity to God. And, we wind up making God have to compete with himself because God doesn't change because one person calls him Allah, the other person calls him Jehovah, the other person may call him Yahweh. God is still the same God. And I have a dream, beloved, that one day we'll come to a place where we stop fighting over names, that we recognize that God is not a name, but he is defined by kingdom characteristics. He is a spirit, which is why they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. I just have a dream that we'll come to a place where, we as it relates to fighting for God, we recognize that the definition or the epitome of fighting for God is fighting for good, fighting for moral decency, fighting for universal characteristics of good, fighting for love, fighting for peace, fighting for honesty, fighting for mercy, fighting for compassion. I just, I know it's God's will. I know it's his will. And it's a dream that I have that again we'll stop with the shenanigans of fighting over things that are not representative of God. We'll stop competing in this senseless games of my God versus your God, of my God is bigger than your God, because again, when you start thinking about God from a religious perspective, then it becomes about my God versus your God. But when you think about God from the entity or being or spirit that is responsible for all the things in the earth and all the life forms in the earth, then it becomes clear that there is only one God of all creation, and he created all of humanity. Wherever you may reside in the earth, whatever human labels you may use to self-identify, whatever period in the earth you may have resided, we are all created from the same creator. And I have a dream that we'll come to a place where we recognize that we are created from the same creator and that we are siblings. Doesn't mean that we all do the same thing. Doesn't mean that we all think the same thing. Doesn't mean that we all act the same way. Doesn't mean that we all speak the same vernacular. But it means that we can come to a united foundation, and we can erect a foundation that's based upon there only being one creator that created all of humanity. I also have a dream that we'll come to a place as a people where God's universal kingdom characteristics and principles will be more important to us than our human labels. Right now, I'll admit that it's more important for people, and it's evident, and if you just open your eyes, that it's more important that people be identified by the labels of Christian. People don't approach people, and when they ask them about themselves, don't say, "Well, yes, I'm a child of God and I stand for good." No, the first thing people will convey to people as it relates to identifying themselves is their religion. I'm Christian. I'm Muslim, I'm Jew. As it relates to defining and describing ourselves, I'm black, I'm white, I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, as opposed to coming to a place where, you can take all that away, and it's more important to me that when you define me as love, as peace, as mercy, as selflessness, as forgiving, as compassionate, as merciful. You see, I have a dream that we'll come to a place where those things are more important than our labels, because they're what's most important to God. He could care less about your labels. He could care less about your skin complexion, because He created all of the skin complexions that have ever resided in the earth. So they're they're not important to God. He just created us with various skin colors, because it was His idea to create a rainbow of different colors, not so that we could be distinguished from one another, but that we could all work together, recognizing the diversity in which God created us, realizing that even in all of the diversity of humanity, we're all still created by the same Creator that some call Yahweh, some call Jehovah, some call Allah. Yet, irrespective of the names, there is only one Spirit that was responsible for creating the heaven and the earth and all the life forms that dwell in the earth. And I just have a dream, beloved, that one day we'll come to a place where we recognize, and it becomes more important to us, that we are defined by the universal kingdom characteristics of God, where it's okay to drop our human labels, because we want people to know us by our fruits. We want people to know us by the thoughts that we have. We want people to recognize and describe us by the words that we use. It becomes important that people, that they describe us by the actions that we engage in. It becomes more important to us that we allow our lights to shine our good before men, that they might see our good works and glorify God. I just have a dream that one day that will be more important than our human labels. I also have a dream, beloved, that we'll come to a place where we can begin to unite good from all the various regions and all the various nations and all the various cracks and crevices in the earth, where we can unite good together. Whether good calls itself Christian, whether good calls itself Muslim, whether good calls itself Jew, whether good calls itself Iranian, whether good calls itself Iraqi, whether good calls itself Pakistani, whether good calls itself Democrat or Republican, black or white. I just have a dream that we'll come to a place where we recognize that it's not the bark of the tree that we should be focused on, but it's the fruits that the tree brings forth. And if you stand for love, you stand for love. I don't care what you call yourself. But see, when you stand for love, you stand for good. And because God is the epitome of good, you stand for God. When you stand for honesty, you stand for good. And because God is the epitome of good, when you stand for honesty, you stand for God. See, I just have a dream that we'll come together and stop all the squabbling over things like religion, ethnicity, nationalities, because all it does is keep good from uniting. It keeps us from coming together as one body, created by the only creator of all humanity, to stand for good in the fight against evil. See, I just have a dream that, as Jesus talked about when he said that, sons will come from the north, the east, the south, and the west, and they will gather themselves in the house. And then the very people that were supposedly the guest, invited into the house, those people are not going to be allowed in. Not because, they were unwelcome, but because they thought that their human labels were more important than their human thoughts, their human words, and their human actions. I just have a dream that we'll set aside the divisions of religion, ethnicities, nationalities, politics, and good will come together. That together we stand for love, we stand for mercy, we stand for compassion, we stand for honesty, we stand for peace, we stand for forgiveness, we stand for tolerance, we stand for selflessness, we stand for dependability, we stand for humility, we stand for loyalty, we stand for God, we stand for good. And I just have a dream that we'll all come to a place where good will begin to unite itself, that we might overcome and defeat evil. This is my dream. This is my dream. I have a dream that good, after setting aside the differences, the divisions that were created based upon religion, ethnicities, and nationalities, I have a dream that we'll come together and we'll be God's arms. We'll be God's hands. We'll be God's eyes. We'll be God's ears, and we'll be God's legs in serving humanity the way that God intended us to serve humanity, that we might meet humanity's spiritual, emotional, and physical needs without discrimination. Jesus didn't discriminate. When the Samaritan woman approached him, yes, he knew that he was sent to the house of the Jews, but he didn't discriminate because he recognized that she was a child of God, because there's only one creator that had created all of humanity, and she was in need. And if he was going to be a representative of God, he had to be in a position to where he was willing and able to meet her need. Well, I have a dream that we will all come together, that we might be representatives of God in meeting humanity's physical, spiritual, and emotional needs. This is my dream, beloved, and I ask you to buy into that dream. Buy into that dream, because it's not to glorify me. It's to glorify our Father. It's not to exclusively benefit me. It's to benefit humanity. It's not to serve me. It's to serve God and good. This is my dream. Will you join me? Will you join me? Will you join me? Because the earth and God is looking for somebody who will say, will you go? Can I send you? That will say, yes, I'll go. Send me. Yes, I'll stand for you. I'll stand for good. Choose me. God, you remember when he thought so highly of Job that he approached Satan, and he said, "Hey, have you considered my son Job? Have you considered him? You want to try somebody? I got one that'll stand up for me. I got one that'll stand up for good. Try him." Can God say that about you? Can God say that about you? I'm believing, and I'm believing that he can. I'm believing that you're willing and you're ready to stand for him by standing for good. If you will, join me. I thank you for tuning in this day. I love you. And until next time.